Welcome to Tech Talk with Arnie Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Join us as we dive into the world of automation and manufacturing, bringing you expert insights from industrial professionals and business leaders. Whether you're a business owner, engineer, or simply passionate about technology, this podcast is your go-to source for the latest trends and innovations in the field. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk with Arnie. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Today here, I have a great guest, a good buddy of mine that I met a few months ago, and we became pretty close. I'm looking forward to this one. His name's Ian Rush. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Ian, I wanted to kind of give our guests a little bit of a background on, you know, who you are. I know you just moved to Greenville. I think probably 3 months ago. I would assume. Can you kind of give them a general background of where you came from and what you did in your career?
Absolutely. I graduated high school in 2007, immediately joined the Marine Corps, went out and did my time there. Enjoyed every minute of it. And when I completed that, I went to Minnesota for college and got a degree in engineering and started at 3M, where pretty much immediately dove into several automation projects and found my niche almost day one. Just jumped right in there and found my home. Was able to be quite successful at a few projects, and I leveraged that success to get another role at an organization known as Wabash National. There, I was pretty much replicated what I did at 3M, just on a different line, different scale, different materials, different technologies, and pretty much just replicated my success there. But the big thing I learned was that there was a big need for people who could scope projects and kind of bird dog them through from A to Z. So um, you know I left that role and started a company called Rush Manufacturing or rushmanufacturing.com.
Mhm.
Essentially, I became a concierge for small and medium sized manufacturers who were new to automation or had never automated anything before and didn't have the
Okay.
teams or organization in or within the organization to execute automation projects. So I essentially worked for both integrators, machine builders, distributors, and was hired by small organizations to essentially guide them through their first project or two,
Mhm.
and just kind of hold their hand and do a lot of the necessary steps of a project, while also training their staff on how to do that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was mildly successful at it. Obviously, it's a unique crew and a unique bridge between multiple organizations and multiple industries. But I found a lot of joy in it. I got to meet a lot of great people, and I got to work on a lot of good projects. Above all else, I learned, how to build teams and how to negotiate, contracts and find win-win projects, but also like matching organizations to machine builders and or other organizations that were experts in the specific technologies that the company looking to automate needed.
Yeah.
That's what led me to South Carolina. I came here on a contract. I pretty much fell in love with it. My family came out and joined me. They fell in love with it, and so we decided to make this home. And so I've actually been here for a year.
Oh, okay.
On the first, yeah.
Yeah,
But
we just
yeah,
didn't
so
meet to say that as
yeah.
soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got here, I was definitely working. I didn't really hang out with a lot of people. I was pretty much working around the clock. But yeah, I was recruited by Barnum in December of last year,
Okay.
and was joined their team. And pretty much I started in December, but I we obviously onboarding and training and such, got me through December and early January. And I think you and I met end of January,
Yeah.
when
Yep.
I was officially, working.
Yeah, yep. It's pretty close to 3 months, and then I was like, "Okay," basically April, and I was like, "Hey, this would be great."
Yeah.
Um, so one thing I noticed, just by you explaining that, you know, coming from a military background, did that help you in, setting up, your own company? uh, well, or was it? Because I mean, obviously in the military, they create basically everything is a process. Everything is basically streamlined. You're up at 5 a.m. or however it might be. I'm not a military guy, but I mean, I envy that. I say, and I'm like, hey, I applied for to be in the Navy originally, but
Okay.
I was medically denied because it just didn't work. But yeah, it just I'm always curious to say, did that help, creating your company and, being that leader and that has showing the leadership of owning a company and, help with negotiating the sale and, leading the teams as because you did say that you're working with multiple different, customers at the same time. So did that overall that help a lot or was it, kind of just the drive?
Yeah, I would
Mhm,
say yes overall. I would say, I mean, initially, it's like I saw a need and I sought to fill that need.
mhm,
I can't. I'm not really. I mean, I don't know if I would call myself an entrepreneur. Not yet. I want to be. Like I want to be that guy.
mhm,
I'm. I want to be an empire builder, and I've had enough roles to know like where I am in that process. So I can't say that I'm some genius business owner.
mhm.
Really, my business was a business of one. It was just me, basically.
Yeah.
In terms of my actual like rushmanufacturing.com, it
Mhm,
but where I would say I succeeded was, again, building bridges. There's the old, everyone knows about the Spaniards used to burn their ships to make sure their guys knew that they weren't going home. And I've kind of changed that to I don't burn I don't burn my ships. I use
mhm.
the wood to build bridges.
Okay.
And so that's something that it's a guiding principle I made for myself, whatever. You can call it cliche or whatever, but for me, it's I'm building bridges between industries. So one of the things, so to answer your question, the Marine Corps taught me, the to engage, to be relentless, to strive to be the very best at everything that I do, even
Mhm.
when I'm not. Like it's always uncomfortable being new at something.
Yep.
But walking into a facility, walking into a team, and it takes guts to walk into that and to be like, yeah, I can do this, knowing that there's just not, I can't do it alone, right? So then I have to figure out what the project is, and then go build a team of complete strangers from, in some cases, like completely opposite sides of the country, and
Yep.
because but build the right teams with the right people with the right expertise, and like essentially deliver them to the project and have them execute it, proficiently and with elegance, for lack of a better term. So I'd
Yep.
say the Marine Corps gave me the guts to do that, and the courage to wade through the uncomfortable
Yeah.
aspects of that, and the
Yeah.
experiences that come with it. And then I would say, in terms of just the project, can get a little hairy. They can get weird. They can get long hours. You're going to bed at 8, waking up at 2. On a regular basis, and you know, um,
Yeah.
and just
I've
doing
been
that
there.
day in, day out for months on end to get the project done, and collaborating, coordinating. Dealing with calls on the other side of the planet. So you're coordinating time zones and language barriers, personality, certainly. So I'd say, yeah, the Marine Corps gave me that. Like I've been around people from everywhere in the world at this point, and
Mhm,
I would say that's one thing the Marine Corps gave me is, kind of that, you know, the whole, everyone bleeds red kind of concept, or, we're all
mhm.
green or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, you're able to communicate with different, types of people and, basically all over the world, and it helps, being able to talk to this person because I mean, I'll tell you right up the top, I say you have management, you have, you know, engineers, you have floor personnel, you have, even the janitors. Say everybody's different, right? So you're able to talk to anybody, say because of the military and the training that they did give you, basically.
Yeah, and just having the guts to stand there and, like, know you look dumb, but be like, "You know what? Someone's gotta stand up here and look dumb and ask the questions that need to be asked in order
Yep.
to get the information so that this project can move forward and be successful." So, yeah, I mean, I'd say, the above all else, those would be that would be the thing that I got, that I can say I apply on a daily basis,
Mhm. Yeah.
that has been helpful. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of you said one thing, being uncomfortable, and one thing that I've always kept in my mind is you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is like one of my favorite quotes. I always forget who says it, but I continue to use it because that's been my whole, career. If I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not doing something right,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and if I'm not in a high pressure situation, uh, I'm not doing something right because to say every pressure situation, you're usually uncomfortable, right? I
Yep.
mean, if you have somebody breathing down your neck saying, "Hey, I need this done. I need this done. This line's down," or whatnot, right? And it could be down for something that I don't even know about, but you or Barnum could be like, "Hey, I'm working on this." Just say I'm in a plant. I'm a controls engineer and I'm working on it and it's, hey, I found the problem and it's this sensor and they don't have the sensor. Well, you know, I need to get it like now,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of, that partnership. And it's like I was uncomfortable for for this period of time, and then we found the solution, and that's the teamwork. And if you're right there working with me, you're like, hey, I can go grab that. I know what one it is in the vending machine, or what I can get it on order. We can get it here right now. Like
We'll
that's
find a
the idea.
solution.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
find the solution. And you say, well, even if it's a different one. I mean, we had this issue a couple weeks ago. I mean, we didn't find the right one right away, but we got it, sent down and it works and they're working on it and getting it solved. Right. So I definitely know, and I know what you mean by that. And the teamwork helps.
I would say, as you say that, I recognize the value in that sense of urgency. That's
Yep.
probably another thing that, I could add to the your original question
Mm,
is, in a factory environment, most, I mean, most companies, most factories that are producing something of value that is, significant to the world, they're 24/7, 365 operation. They never shut down. I mean, they have plant outages and such, but in most cases, if something's broken, it needs to be fixed right now.
yep.
And, in the military, it's a different why, right? Like, it's life and death versus, money, no money, but it really is the same problem. At the end of the day, most people, see their 9 to 5 as just a way to make a living, but if you look at it from the macro level, like, it's a symbiotic relationship between employee and organization, right? If the organization's not making money, you don't have a job. If you don't have a job, and that Pareto's down to the obvious. And then,
Yeah.
and so I would say, in a lot of cases, I find one thing that's unique about me is that I have an unsatiable sense of urgency
Hmm.
that allows me to be successful because, you know, there's a problem, I'm gonna find a solution. I'm going to find a solution.
Yep.
There is no other option. And
Hmm.
in my, my current role, that the organization I represent now, that's literally what makes them successful and why I do well here and why, why I'm comfortable in this organization. And I would say when it comes to customers, being you or one of your customers, when your line is down, you need a solution,
Yes.
and I think that's where, it's like that's the difference between the winners and losers overall. And I
Hmm.
think as our industry continues to progress, the automation industry continues to progress, we need people who have that sense of urgency because we're putting in systems that are life changing or future changing for the
Yeah.
companies that we're working for. However, if we don't support them, if we don't provide them with that long term support, and if there aren't people on their teams that have that same understanding, then it can make automation look not as effective as the sales pitch, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. And I mean, you're right. Automation is growing is significant at a significant rate. I read an article the other day by like 2030, it's supposed to be $395 billion of for in spending of automation, which is crazy. I mean, and there's even articles that say about a couple plants that are coming down south here that are in the billions, right? It's crazy how much automation is actually coming here, and those companies need a solution provider, and
mhm.
that's what Barnum, that's what R&E does. I mean, we're there to support these customers and help them solve, or we're there to solve their problems when they can't solve the problem, and that's exactly how it works. I mean, and it's always good when you're helping a customer and they're happy that, hey, you got me what I needed within, a day or within a couple hours. Like they're excited about that. So it's
Yeah.
good, and I see, I see a lot of growth, coming in the future for the automation space for sure. And I think it'll be a lucrative, obviously it's going to be a lucrative career for everybody. And it'll be once the growth continues to happen, it also brings other jobs to everybody else as well. And, hopefully say they can, do the same thing that you and I are planning to do, be that solution for those
Mhm.
customers. Um, so obviously you say, you created rushmanufacturing.com. And I also, the cool thing was when you got here, you were willing to just jump into, creating something else on top of, being with Barnum to, make those connections and grow your overall, like, I guess talent pool, and, meeting people, and building out your I guess overall friendships and sales pipeline, and, meeting new people. You created, automation connections. It looks like you did it in Arizona and you did it in South Carolina, and hopefully there's going to be a Texas one. And it sounds like that's becoming very successful. How is that helping, build, your, I guess your business, and you building, helping HH Barnum, grow, and yourself grow, because I mean you're meeting so many people so quickly with that.
Yeah, I mean, I started the one in Arizona during COVID, essentially, or immediately after when it was legal. Uh,
Yeah.
so, but long story short, I wanted to meet the industry. I know when in my previous roles when I was in the factory, um, I did the same thing. Like when I was working as an engineer, I would do happy hours with other engineers, and I would invite people from the whole organization to come out because I just wanted to get to know people and like meet them on a personal level. A lot of the problems we deal with at work are challenging and they wear us out.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know them and I wanted to get like just to communicate. And over time, it just became a place for us to kind of discuss the problems and kind of air out the laundry or whatever. Because like, when you go home, like no one understands what you do unless someone in your family happens to do what you do. Like it's a very interesting and very niche in industry, and all the organizations I work for, like they have a lot of intellectual property, and which creates a lot of silos within the organization. Like and people are afraid to talk. And what I found is just building those bridges again, building those meetings. It's like you don't need to tell me about the specific technologies you're dealing with. But you can still talk about
Mm.
like the time and maybe high level, and maybe there's something I can add. Without breaking rules. Like I can share information. I can share, and these are actual scenarios that I've been through. Where like I'm on the literally the other side of the wall of another line, and I'm doing something that is completely off the shelf. We'll call it $100,000 solution, right? That I'm building, and it's not even like
Mhm.
a number one project for me. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
And the guy on the other side is trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to build this entire thing from scratch. And he's doing what I'm doing for 100K, he's doing for like 1 million or $2 million. And it's like just making that connection, talking high level, created a connection where I was able to say, "Hey man, check this out."
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the start of it. And then moving to Arizona, I was okay. Now I'm in this industry. I'm trying to sell automation basically to organizations that are new to it. I need an army of people who are experts at it so I can make connections, and I need to know them on a more personal level. I can't just be like, "Oh, there's a guy down the street that makes machines. Maybe he can help." It's like, no, like, "Hey, my
Yeah.
buddy down the street, Aaron, he's literally the best at what you need. You guys should meet." And it makes those conversations so much easier. So that's why I started the Arizona one, is just to kind of build my pool of doers of automation
Mhm.
in a very organic way, so that when I met actual clients or customers of mine, I could introduce them very, very cordially. Like either, "Hey, come to my happy hour. I'll introduce you to everybody, and you can, meet people you like and go from there." Or I can introduce you to certain people or whatever. Or, "Hey, let's schedule a time to meet." Like that's what that was. And
Mm.
it grew. I partnered with a couple other people in the space that we all had similar interests, and not competing in any way. And
Yep.
so we pooled our lists, and we just grew it. And so now, our Arizona happy hour happens every 6 to 8 weeks, and consistently, I mean, 3 years. I mean, it grew to 50 pretty quickly, and then it's inched from
Mm.
50 to 100 over 2024. And now the last 3 in a row, we've had over 100 attendees.
Oh
So,
wow.
and these are engineers, these are maintenance managers, these are technicians, these are, application specialists. So you might like, we don't invite, we ask salespeople not to come unless in rare cases, some understand the vision and they put their sales hat off or take their sales hat off when they walk in the door because we
Mhm.
want it to be technical. We want it to be just doers of automation having a beer together. We don't allow sponsorships because we don't ever want it to turn into like a Hilton timeshare sales pitch or anything like that. Like we
Yep.
keep it cool. And so that's why people come and that's why we pull the people that we do. So
Mhm.
when I got to South Carolina and I committed to staying here and I joined an
Mhm.
organization that's in the industry, literally my first thing out of my mouth was I need to start my happy hour here.
Yeah.
It's been very successful in Arizona. Greenville is probably, in terms of right now, there's probably more happening here in the automation space than Phoenix overall.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, there's a lot of incredible engineers and technicians, and there's a lot of incredible talent here that I want to meet. Like genuinely, like as a person, I think like I want to hang out with these smart people that do cool shit.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then long term, of course, there's obviously an angle. Like I want us all to work together. I want us all to know each other, and because I genuinely believe like this industry only gets better as we work together and we know each other's lanes, and we essentially we make sure that business in South Carolina stays in South Carolina. If,
Yeah.
you used to talk about companies moving here, building, billion-dollar factories, great. If we want you to start with local talent, because that's better for everybody. It's cheaper, it's more efficient. Down the
Mhm.
road, when things break, you need someone to come service it. They're right down the street. And
Mhm.
so like that is the vision, is to make sure that the business here stays here, and
Yep.
we basically, we allow, was it rising tides raise all ships or whatever, like that. That's
Yep.
the vision with the happy hour here in South Carolina, and anywhere that it started, is to make sure that everybody knows who each other are,
Yeah.
and is aware of each other on a personal level. It has at least some level of a relationship, professional or otherwise, and is in an organic way and not a sales pitchy way. Learn each other's abilities and make it so that when these newcomers come to the area, they can show up to a happy hour, meet the entire industry in one night. Shoot.
Mhm.
Shoot the shit with them, build relationships, and hopefully collaborate on projects.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's you nailed it, man. That was great. I'm always looking, to make a genuine connection. And hey, it's kind of funny when that happens. It's like, hey, we're having a beer, and next thing you know, we're we're going out on the lake, or we're going, here, hey, there's a barbecue here. You want to come over? And then next, everybody's hanging out at the house or hanging out, here. And it's just, and the crazy thing is when you do need, like for instance, if you need talent, right? I can give an instance where, I, I had a buddy that, hey, he's like, my place is closing down. And I'm like, oh man. I was like, that's crazy. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I really need, he's like, I really need some help. He's like, I really want to, I really want to stay working. And I'm like, okay. So, next thing he's calling me and he's like, hey, my whole shop wants to come. And I'm like, okay, yeah, come
Huh.
on, have him come over, right? And so, I interviewed, all these guys, and we're like, yeah, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna hire you, all of you, if you want a job, you know.
Sweet.
But it's just,
Yeah.
he knew me, and it was just a connection that, it was like I was like, it was shocked, to all of them, and we gave them all, offers and got them working, here locally even. So it just kind of helps, when you meet those type of people and you have those genuine connections. And it's always good, and I think, hey, I'm inviting, the listeners out and say, if you ever are interested to come out to an event, please connect with Ian, and we'll try to get you, set up to where, hey, you're on the email list to, get an invite to come out and say, as he sets them up. And I think you said every 6 to 8 weeks, correct?
Correct. Yep. So
Okay.
every 6 to 8 weeks, the only thing I ask is, what I do post the invite on LinkedIn, but I take the address off because I really do need people to RSVP. I learned this the hard way. I can't show up to no matter how nice the venue is, I can't show up with 100 people without letting them know. Like,
Mhm.
because these are weekdays. They tend to be slower days. It's just, good for
Yep.
us. But you know, basically I use Evite as my, as my platform just so it's, hey, I send you literally it's the same thing you'd use to invite your kid's friends to a birthday party. It's nothing, I'm going as little as organic or as non-salesy as possible.
Mhm.
But I do ask that just please RSVP so that, as it grows, I can make sure the venue has the right the right amount of people to make sure that everyone has a good experience.
Yeah, we don't wanna
But
show up to one bartender for
yes,
120 people.
yes. I mean, that's a good problem to have, but I learned the hard way that it doesn't go over very well, and it's, yeah, it's awkward, and I'll just remind, we do not accept sponsorships on purpose. So, like, typically, I'll grab a beer for people. Like, it's not like it's not fu. It's just we want to keep it as organic as possible, and we want to prevent it from turning into something, marketing or salesy or corporatey. And
Yep.
so as such, just be prepared, to pick up your own tab, so that, we can keep it cool for everybody. And yeah, I mean, by all means, I'd love for everyone to show up. It, yeah, it's a great time. You know, I,
Mm.
you can, there's
Yeah.
so many people that go to it. You can ask them. Like it really is just a bunch of smart people hanging out, hanging out, doing their thing,
Yep.
getting to know each other, and everything that comes from it is organic, and that's the whole point. So yeah, I'd love to have people show up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. Um, so I have one other thing here, and I wanted to, just for our listeners as well. I think he has kind of gave, his background, and I mean, I really wanted to highlight the automation connection platform that he's built here. But I have one other thing for the listeners, and it's I know here in about a month and a half, Automate's coming up. And I know Ian and I have talked about it a couple different times. And I want to, send that out, to, our listeners to, hey, come join us at Automate. We're looking for, to connect with people and say, have a meeting and sit down and chat and, see what we can, what we can learn, like what Ian just said. It'd be great to have, people out to just have a genuine connection. Let's grab a beer while we're in Detroit. I'm from Michigan, so it's always good to go back. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be back there for I think about 10 days. I'm excited for
Oh, nice.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be in Michigan a lot this year, actually. So
Heck yeah.
I'll be there about I think like 5 or 6 weeks during the summer, which is kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
I got a lot going on. so um so yeah, did want to let the listeners know that Ian will be there. Him and I will be hanging out talking. So if you want me to introduce you or anything like that, I'd be glad to. Ian, for the last thing that I want to provide for our listeners is how can they reach you, and is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners here?
You can reach me via LinkedIn. You can call me, text me, email me, whatever. I'll give you my contact info if people want to reach out to me directly. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say that the automation connection is probably the most efficient way to get to know me.
Mhm.
Either in Arizona or in South Carolina. So the next Arizona one's gonna be on April 17th. It'll be a Thursday. So if anyone's in Arizona, by all means, please shoot me a line and I'll get you an invite to that one. I will also be doing one at Automate. It's a limited invite for the official one. It's going to be at the apparatus room. So if you want to invite to that, let me know. That one is sponsored by Barnum. So if you want to go, by all means. Otherwise, a lot of us are going to be meeting up during the event and then going out after. So if you don't want to go to the official happy hour, just shoot me a line and we'll tell you where we're
Barnum one.
meeting up. But we'll probably go out and have some fun that night. Um, in terms of other things, I want people to know is just, this industry is incredible. I love everything about the automation industry. I think it's an underserved
I think I
industry. I mean,
lost you there.
most of us work on projects for, organizations that are uh like A-list brands, right? And what I would say is that there's a completely untapped industry of manufacturing organizations that you know don't necessarily fit that description. And I would say that if you know young people that are trying to figure out what to do with their lives, I would highly encourage them, if they have any sense of urgency or any mechanical or technical abilities, recruit them to our industry. We need more people. We need more doers. And there's enough resources out there to coach them and train them and mentor them to get them to a place where they can make a good living for themselves and their families, but also help grow our economy, which I think is essential. So that would be the only thing I would ask, is just look for either young people or just people, and people who are in industries or in jobs they hate. If they're at all mechanical or technical, recruit them to the automation industry. If you want a place for them to work, that reach out to me. I will find somewhere for them to work. Someone that'll recruit them and train them and give them a place to land. But yeah, that would be the only thing I would share. Other things that people should know about me, I would just say, honestly, the automation industry is incredible. I love everything about it. Man, I yeah, I think everyone who has any sort of mechanical or technical abilities should consider automation as a career. Whatever, wherever you find yourself in terms of actual job, I don't really care. But I think if you're in the industry and you have mentees, young people, high school kids that are trying to figure out what to do with their careers, I think you should hard sell them on coming into the automation industry. There's not enough of us to go around, and there's a lot more work coming. There are entire industries that are just finding out about industrial automation. Like they don't know that it's even available to them, and so that's going to open up a ton of new opportunities for everybody. And I would say, just you know we should all be recruiting, basically, for this
Yep.
industry. I don't care what company. Every company in this industry does great stuff. They're all great at something. And I just that would be my hard sell, is like everyone should be participating, or at least trying to get people into it. And then at the same time, just as a community, we should get to know each other. So whether it's one of my happy hours or at Automate, I know Jordan and I will be walking Automate, trying to get to know people and just doing our thing. I'll be hosting a happy hour at the apparatus room on the 13th. If you want to go, please shoot me a line and I'll get you an invite. That one's limited to only 20 people. It's a pretty big event, and it is that one is a sponsored event, so it's not an official happy hour. But if anyone wants to go, please let me know. But a bunch of us are going to meet up afterward and go and hit the town. So if you can't make it, or you have other things, it's fine. But I would just say, as a community, we should all get to know each other. This industry should be an absolute blast. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah.
hear the old timers tell their stories about what it was like, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's like that. It should still be that way. And for me, it is. I know for Jordan, it is. And if it's not for
It is
you,
all the time.
come hang out. Like, I promise you, we will show you a great time. Like, you should have. This should absolutely be the workest, hardest, playest, hardest industry in the game. So yeah, you should be having fun. If you're not, you're doing it wrong. And that's not a critique. That's just saying, come hang out and let's have some fun. Um, Gosh, there's so much happening in the industry. Obviously in the South here in Greenville, like we're blowing up with projects and with companies moving here. And yeah, I think I want everyone to be a part of it. So yeah, that's all. That's what I would leave with.
Perfect. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm excited, and hey, I appreciate you coming on, Ian, and yeah, everybody, please, reach out. We'll gladly, connect, and let's meet up. And I have to say one thing. I love the old timer story, because I mean I hear it all the time, and I've seen it. It's just so much fun when you're talking to them, and they tell you a story, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. So
Yep.
that's gonna be us in 25 years.
Yes, sir. And we're
But
living it
yeah,
now. So
oh yeah, yeah, it'll be good. But yeah, I appreciate our listeners listening. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle, and this is Tech Talk with Irony Automated, signing off.